In the glittering world of business, victory often comes with invisible wounds. The higher a man climbs, the more fragile his balance becomes. At the top of Jinda Group sits President Shen Haoming, a man whose name commands respect in every boardroom, whose decisions can move markets overnight. To the outside world, he has it all: power, success, a beautiful family, and the kind of confidence only years of triumph can shape. But power has a price. Behind the glass walls of his empire, the air has long been filled with whispers. Whispers of rivalry, betrayal, and secrets too dark to surface. People say a single sheet of paper can destroy a lifetime of achievement. For Shen Haoming, that paper comes in the form of a paternity test report, one that tears through the illusion he has built. This is not just a corporate crisis. It's a story of a man stripped bare before the world, a husband, a father, forced to confront not only his enemies, but the meaning of love and family itself. As we step into the story of the Jinda Group, every smile hides a blade, every silence carries a storm. And before this night ends, the man who once ruled with certainty will discover what it means to lose everything and still protect what truly matters. The evening air outside the Jinda Tower was heavy with celebration. The quarterly meeting had just ended, another triumph for President Shen Haoming. Shareholders toasted, laughter filled the corridors, and the future seemed bright. But the moment he stepped back into his office, the warmth of success began to fade. Waiting for him was Han Wei-ping, his longtime colleague, and perhaps his quietest rival. With a smirk curling at the corner of his lips, Han placed a folder on the desk. "President Shen," he said softly, "congratulations on winning North Bund, but you might want to take a look at this." The words on the folder's cover were simple: paternity test report. At that instant, it was as if all the air had been sucked from the room. Shen's hand trembled slightly as he opened it. He had seen this before, years ago, a forgotten envelope buried in an anonymous complaint box. A joke, he had thought. A mistake. But now it had returned, like a blade aimed straight at his heart. Han's tone turned mocking, almost playful. "I suppose the shareholders deserve to know that their president has been raising someone else's child for years, don't you think?" The color drained from Shen's face. He wanted to speak, but the world around him began to buzz. His phone lighting up with alerts, stock updates, and media calls. Headlines flashed across every screen. Jinda President Shen Haoming conceals non-biological son. Paternity scandal rocks Jinda Group. In just minutes, a lifetime of reputation collapsed into chaos. Shen didn't think of money or the shareholders' rage. He thought only of one thing: his son, Haochen. He grabbed his coat and rushed home. But when he arrived, the building was already surrounded. Cameras flashing like lightning, reporters shouting questions that cut like knives. Inside, little Haochen sat curled up in fear, clutching a toy. Xu Yan, his wife, held him close, her face pale but eyes resolute. The fortress of success that Shen had spent decades building had fallen overnight. Not to business rivals, but to a secret he never imagined would surface. And as the sound of flashing cameras filled the room, he realized this was only the beginning. The door slammed open, and the world outside came crashing in. Flashing lights, shouts, chaos. Shen Haoming barely made it through the stairwell before the noise reached his ears. By the time he entered the apartment, his wife Xu Yan was already holding their son close, shielding him from the storm. Little Haochen trembled in her arms, clutching a small toy, the last bit of peace he had left. His eyes, wide and frightened, looked up at his father as if seeking an answer to something he couldn't understand. Outside the window, reporters swarmed like vultures. Their voices pierced through the thin walls. "President Shen, is it true the boy isn't yours? Why did you hide the truth for so long? Did you deceive your shareholders?" Each question was like a dagger, sharp and merciless. Shen's face stiffened. The man who once commanded boardrooms with calm authority now stood helpless before the cruelty of public opinion. Shu Yan's voice broke the noise. Enough! She pulled a coat over her son's head, covering his face, and turned toward the cameras that glared through the glass. Her voice was clear, trembling only slightly. I'm Shu Yan, Shen Haomin's mother. Whatever you've heard, this child is innocent. You have no right to hurt him for the mistakes of adults. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Even the reporters hesitated, their cameras lowering just a little. Shu Yan continued, firm but calm. Whether or not Haomin shares blood with President Shen, it doesn't change who we are as a family. He is our son. No report can erase that. Shen looked at her then, really looked. And for the first time in years, his heart ached, not from anger, but from gratitude. He had braced himself for judgment, maybe even for Shu Yan to walk away. But instead, she stood beside him, between the world and their child, her courage burning quietly in the dark. When the police finally arrived to disperse the crowd, the damage had already been done. Jinda's stocks plummeted, investors raged, and headlines screamed betrayal. Yet, in that small apartment, amidst the chaos, something unshakable took root, a family choosing to stand together. As the night deepened, Shen held his son close. Shu Yan sat beside them, her hand resting gently over his. No words were needed. The storm outside could rage on, but within their hearts, they had found the calm that no scandal could take away. Morning came heavy with dread. The city outside still buzzed with gossip, and every news outlet carried the same headline, Jinda's integrity in question. Inside the car, silence reigned. Shen Haoming sat rigid, the lines on his face carved deep by sleepless hours. Beside him, Shu Yan was calm, her gaze steady, hands clasped over her lap. The emergency board meeting had been called by Chairman Shu, who now led the charge against Shen. His ambition, long hidden beneath courtesy, had found its chance to strike. When the couple entered the boardroom, the atmosphere was suffocating. Shareholders whispered behind folded hands. At the head of the table, Chairman Shu lounged comfortably, a cruel smile flickering beneath polite words. President Shen, he began, waving a folder, the same cursed report that had destroyed their peace. We've all seen this. The market has collapsed. Investors have lost confidence. Tell us, how do you explain this deception? The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward Shen. For the first time in his career, he had no defense, only the weight of humiliation pressing on his chest. Before he could speak, Shu Yan rose. Her voice was calm, yet carried the authority of truth. Chairman Shu, she said, walking slowly to the center of the room. Before we question my husband's integrity, shouldn't we first question the authenticity of this report? She placed her phone on the table, and with a click, the projector flickered to life. On the screen appeared a photo. Chairman Shu meeting privately with Han Weiping, the man who had leaked the paternity test. Murmurs rippled through the room. Shu Yan continued, unwavering. Han Weiping was dismissed for embezzlement months ago, and yet here he is, sharing drinks with our chairman the night before the leak. Coincidence? Chairman Shu's composure faltered. Nonsense, you have no proof. Shu Yan smiled faintly, her expression sharp as glass. Proof? You mean these? She opened a folder, revealing signed agreements, bank transfers, and internal memos. You've been diverting company funds using inferior materials to inflate profits, preparing to carve out a private share from the North Bund project. This scandal wasn't about morality. It was your cover-up. The air turned electric. Shareholders whispered, faces pale. Shen's father, director Shen Jinsong, rose from his seat, voice cold as iron. Chairman Shu, we've already informed the authorities. You're suspected of embezzlement and corporate fraud. Let the law decide. Security entered moments later, and Chairman Shu's defiance crumbled. As he was escorted out, the same cameras that once hunted the Shen family now turned toward him. When silence returned, one of the elder shareholders spoke softly, eyes on Shu Yan. President Shen, you're a fortunate man. Your wife didn't just save your name, she saved Jinda. Shen turned toward her. For the first time since the storm began, warmth returned to his chest. The woman who had once stood quietly beside him had now stood for him, and for the truth. The storm had finally passed. After the chaos, after the noise, the world around Jinda Group slowly began to calm. The headlines shifted, the rumors faded, and the truth, at last, spoke for itself. When Shen Haoming returned home, the air was no longer filled with tension, only the soft rustle of wind through the old courtyard. In the garden, Haochen was picking cherries with his grandmother. His small hands were stained red, his laughter bright, untouched by the cruelty of the adult world. The moment the boy saw his father, he ran forward and threw himself into his arms. "Daddy, you're back!" he said, his voice full of warmth as if nothing had happened. Shen knelt down, hugging the boy tightly. His voice trembled, heavy with guilt. "I'm sorry, Haochen. I let you be wronged." But the child shook his head, his little hand patting Shen's cheek. "Mom said you're the best dad. I don't care what others say." For the first time in days, Shen's eyes filled with tears. He looked up, and there was Shu Yan, standing quietly by the garden gate. She smiled, a smile both tired and gentle. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting soft shadows on her face. In that light, Shen realized something simple yet profound. Family wasn't about blood. It was about love, about the people who stayed when the world turned its back. He walked over, standing beside her. "I used to think I had to shoulder everything alone," he said softly. "Now I know. I can face anything because you're here." Shu Yan looked at him, eyes glimmering. "Then let's carry it together. We'll raise Haochen, protect him, rebuild what was broken, together." He nodded, never apart. That night, after Haochen fell asleep, the two sat side by side on the old garden swing. The moonlight spilled over them like a quiet blessing. Shen took her hand and whispered, "When everything fell apart, you didn't leave. You stood with me against the whole world." Shu Yan leaned her head on his shoulder. "Because you and Haochen are my world," she said simply. The night wind stirred the leaves, carrying away the last echoes of turmoil. In the silence that followed, there was no more fear, only peace, hard-won and real. Sometimes, the greatest victory is not in conquering the world, but in learning to protect the little piece of it that is yours. And in that moment, the Jinda affair stopped being a story of scandal. It became a story of love that endured.